In love. Today I decided to break it down. Today is the 8th of November, and a very important topic about food, about nutrition, and why people resent vegans. Yesterday, or was it the other day, I was reading an article that the most hated group, minority, more than gay, more than any minority group, are vegans. They're very much hated. Question is, why do we hate vegans? After the editor of a British food magazine made a joke about killing vegans, and he had to step down from his position. So there is Dr. Yechiel Tzaban. He's a researcher of Israeli food and literature. I didn't know you could research food. The culture of food. He says that it's only the beginning. Vegans become a political force, consumerism and social force. The vegans will be more, as they stand out more. The moral questions that come up very much have to do with modern life. Then it will be more attacks. So what do you think are the main reasons why people hate vegans? He says, this is what Yechiel Tzaban says, the resentment towards vegans comes from a few reasons. First of all, the Western culture is based on eating meat. Cultures, holidays, restaurants, TV shows, cooking shows, family dinners, all are around eating meat. Vegans are seen as a profound attempt to change the meat of the culture. Meat is a status symbol. In Paris, it says duck à l'orange. To eat duck à l'orange is a symbol of masculinity. Big men eat big steaks, a symbol of family. Good mothers prepare schnitzel, connection with God, various things like sacrificing animals. And the most important, the strength and the right to kill for pleasure. Like we say in Hebrew, I finished 2 portions of shawarma. The vegans refuse to continue this tradition. It's a refusal of power, of godliness. I don't know what godliness that is. Love, richness, and the happiness of meat. The vegans are seen as violent. The reactions to vegans is violent, conservative, and defensive. We cannot expect the strength of the meat industry in the Western society, the dominance of political lobby, and the presence of the meat industry allows it to be a normalization of killing animals as a essential way of for a higher cause. We slaughter chickens in order to celebrate our independence. We separate cows from their mothers so the children will be healthy. The vegans are trying to they contest this the normal carnivore structure, and they are conceived as not normal, as cruel, as traitors, and as they're seen as violent people. I'm not saying the vegan groups are not violent, but the meat industry presents the mass cruelty towards animals as essential, as taken for granted as moral, as a non-violent violence. And as opposed to that, the vegans' reactions to the mass killing and cruelty towards animals is seen as a coercion, as a psychosis, as a militant extremism. Also, the plate, what somebody eats, is it's somebody's last freedom in a society, a capitalistic society. Nobody gets into my plate. And the vegans, in the name of sheep and fish and responsibility towards ecology, they take the little pleasure that simple man has. Are there any other groups besides vegans that what they eat causes violent reaction? The way minority groups cook and eat always bothers the masses. There is something threatening in different smells, different flavors. They represent a different sensuality, a different physical reality. The vegans are offering a deep change in the way we taste, the way we smell and behave. They offer a new physicality that has no animal fat, that doesn't have muscles of animals, that doesn't have the smell of cooked animals. It's not just a coincidence that the editor of a magazine, a cooking magazine, says to forcefully feed meat to vegans. There's an attempt to correct with force entity that is conceived as foreign and threatening. The way this editor expressed is speaking like a rape. It's to force somebody to eat meat. It's difficult not to find in what he says to compare it to the right of an animal, the godly human right over a body of an animal, to the right of a masculine entity over the body of a woman. So they're asking this professor, are vegans now another group that you're not allowed to make jokes about, politically correct? Is it not allowed to make jokes about vegans? Of course you can, and it's even good to make jokes because you can express emotions that you cannot express otherwise. It's better to laugh at each other than to fight and hit. But you have to be aware of the humiliating and violent side of jokes. What would happen if we change vegans to Jews? We have to hunt the Jews and feed them pork forcefully. Humor becomes less entertaining when when we are the jokes, when we become the hunted animal. So, having said that, I think it's definitely important to be aware when we say, oh, vegans are militant, they're extreme. I do think it's important to send a message of peace, because otherwise we miss the point. It's not just changing your diet, it's changing your lifestyle. And not eating meat has to do with the message of not killing, non-violence. And I was fortunate enough to have studied in the Shivananda Yoga School, and therefore I realized it's not just, oh, I don't eat meat. Why? You have to know what you're doing, first of all, an aware person, an awakened person, and the other point is it's all connected to non-violence. So it's not just not eating meat, it's not just about the fact that animals are murdered, but it's the whole idea of non-violence. So if you're screaming at people a message, if you're screaming a message, it's an important message, but if you're screaming it and if you're humiliating other people, then you're missing the point. So it's something I also have to work on, everyone, about how we speak to other people. So if you want to send a message of peace, I had the same experience recently at this demonstration. for intolerance, against intolerance. There was a Freudian slip for intolerance. So people did not allow a politician from the other side to speak at a demonstration against intolerance. And that's the problem I have with the extreme left or right. Hypocrisy. So if you really want to talk about tolerance, that means not only for your ideas, but tolerance for other people's ideas. So being vegan is just one way of living a life that's non-violent. And of course we can always bring the example of Adolf Hitler, cursed be his name, that he was vegetarian. Great. And I don't know how many ultra-Orthodox rabbis bring the Nazis as an example of vegetarians. Why? Why do they do this? I don't know. Anyone who only takes, and this can be said also about ultra-Orthodox or Christians or Muslims or whatever, if you take one idea from your religion and you ignore everything else, then you have a distorted lifestyle. So of course, if a person only refrains from eating meat but is violent towards other people and they're just calls for their destruction, then of course that doesn't go. But that doesn't mean that being vegetarian is not right. It's right on so many levels. And I do think this researcher is onto a very deep idea about how any new idea is threatening. There is no, except the Indians, there is no society that is vegetarian. There's no culture that's vegetarian, I think, right? Except in India. Why is that? Anyway, so it's a new idea in a way, and I think the best way to promote vegetarian or vegan eating, I'm getting more and more towards the idea of vegan being very wise. When we think about the dairy industry, which is no less cruel than the meat industry, the way we steal the milk from a creature, milk that's supposed to nourish its young, and take it and use it and consume it, where it's not part of a diet of an adult person or a baby, because a baby always should have the nutrition of its mother, in a limited time. We're the only creatures that actually consume milk beyond babyhood. You know, we don't need milk in our diets, and that's facts. But how do we promote this idea? I think in a rational way. In a rational way. If you want it to be, if you want to have a rational discussion, you need to be rational yourself. If one of the sides is not rational, it affects the other person as well. So I would go with the rationality, and to show how being vegan promotes health of body and mind. And just to look at the big picture, that I am not the only one. It's not just what happens now, but to look beyond. Peace, light, and love. Have a wonderful day, and I hope you choose a healthy lifestyle for you and your family.